This is Lazy Larry, and he's on a quest to get to the drugstore and purchase some essentials. A lot of meth is on the top of the list as his svelte physique requires it. But there's a little problem. There's a lot of traffic on the freeway, stretching from the quaint den of not too bad at all to the swamp of fucking ghosts and shit, and Larry isn't interested in being the hero. He's more happy being the zero, and that got me thinking, zero tact. This guy is not doing anything. Diablo 2, it's one of those games, you know, profitable to make videos about, hee-haw, but also pretty great for arbitrarily shitty challenge runs, of which today we'll be seeing if Larry can make it all the way to the end of the game without ever attacking a single time. And that means Larry's faithful sidekick, the ever-present Mercenary, is going to have to pick up all the slack, like the whole rope. Larry's not doing anything. Here's some context for the rule set. I can be any class I want, but none of my interactions with the game can cause damage. That doesn't mean I can't use a single spell though. Anything that is for the benefit of our God King Mercenary is on the table, so the classes have various perks and stuff we should probably go over. Damage is out, but I'm allowed to do things that don't do direct damage, so any support or utility option is fine. In that vein, Amazon is probably the least useful class overall because she doesn't have any single skill that's worthwhile in this context. 2 skill trees are out straight away, so you're left with passives only, and Inner Sight and Slow Missiles are the only 2 abilities that can even do anything. And to be honest, I never once looked at what these skills do. They may be God tier, they may be Satan tier, I don't know. But I do know that I will not be using them. On the exact same tier as Amazon is the Assassin. All these classes are A for ass, and she doesn't have anything to help anyone at all. In fact, she's slightly worse because the only skill I can see here that is available and does something is Fade, which only ups personal survivability. This is a slightly late yet still decent time to mention, but summonable creatures and minions are illegal here as well because that would just be a regular build at that point. The Mercenary is our only damage source. Now, the good old best class in Diablo 2 is able to be a raving fan of the Mercenary. He can shout out expletives and build little arts and crafts out of bones and ass, so, you know, that's good. Find Potion is a decent thing if you want to spend your time doing that. Find Item is a great idea because we're going to need to find a lot of good item, and Grimoire, the aforementioned ass and bone statues, are solid at CCing enemies and increasing the damage taken. Howl pushes things away from your feeble friend. Taunt can make good use of your health pool since you're not doing anything else. Shout is whatever, but Battle Orders greatly increases your Mercenary's survivability with a big boon to health. Battle Cry is whatever, and then Battle Command is there to make you feel like you're doing something but doesn't really. Finally, you can bulk up really well with increased speed and natural resistances, giving you more to tank as you stand there and tug your dick. So, you know, Barb is wonderful as always. Didn't pick him, but I could have. Druid is next, and in a lot of ways, it's just the hipster barbarian. Oak Sage is the same concept as Battle Orders, giving your party a lot more HP, and now that I look at this, this is the one good ability that Druid has. Okay, well, you can also grab Cyclone Armor to make yourself defensive, but who cares? So, you know, Druid, get the fuck out of here with your one good ability and make room for the Sorceress. Okay, this was really on my considered list because there's a lot of utility the Sorceress provides. Enchant is an awesome ability that imbues your Mercenary with fire damage, and honestly, a fucking dump truck load of it. Since Warmth is a natural synergy, you can invest 40 skill points into making Enchant as good as possible, and it gives your Merc 2 separate damage types as long as they're attacking physically. Since resistance breaking is a huge part of completing Hell, it'd be a good idea to have this as a way to circumvent every type of monster. Beyond this, the Sorceress has Teleport, which is invaluable in the sense that it gets your lunatic dumbass Mercenary out of bad situations and into much better ones where they won't be eaten by 5 bears. Because if you aren't familiar, Teleport in Diablo 2 forces your whole army of summons and stuff to come with you to your exact location, so it's just the best mobility option in the game by far. Cool. Also, for the sake of farming items, being able to teleport is awesome, as walking around takes forever in many circumstances. Telekinesis is actually banned as it deals direct damage, so that's sad because it's never used for that, instead being used for popping open chests and stuff at a distance. Finally, you can get Frozen Armor to defend yourself a little more, and overall, this is a very good class selection. But then there's Paladin, and no one compares with his buffing potential. Might, Thorns, Conviction, Blessed Aim, Concentration, Fanaticism, all great forms of axe body spray you can apply to improve your conditions massively. Fanaticism alone is a god buff capable of dramatically improving your Mercenary's damage output. Other than all of those, you have Prayer, Cleansing, Vigor, Resist Fire, Cold, and Lightning, Redemption, Salvation, and all these things provide insane utility. Like, Redemption deletes the dead bodies that are used by enemy minions for reanimation, so that can greatly help out your Mercenary's rip and tear sessions by removing threats they've already dispatched. Even in the combat tree, there is some benefits, like Holy Shield, which gives you personally a ton more physical defense, making you much more physically defensible. So overall, all things considered, the Paladin is an amazing class. Tanky, gives out defense and damage, and is uniquely positioned to not even need to play the game. But I went with the Necromancer. Fancy that? What the fuck? Well, Necromancer has some of the most powerful support abilities in the game, and he looks funny to me, so I decided this is where I wanted to go. And honestly, this support is wild. It's pretty revolutionary because while everyone else has really really good skill potential, a lot of their abilities can be supplied via rune words. Now, point I'm going to make instantaneously, I don't want to make Enigma to get teleport, but the option is there. Not only that, but a lot of the spells that are helpful can be found on charged jewelry. But Necromancer shit, well, it's actually pretty hard to come across. We get access to curses, all of which can be applied on and off to varying needs. Plus, the Necromancer gets a curse, Decrepify, that actually removes physical immunity, meaning the Mercenary will be able to bypass hell-based difficulties. Necromancers also get tank ability with bone armor and can rearrange the playing field with bone walls, meaning that I can actually take an active approach in combat, as opposed to my typical act of standing around like a fucking lump. Okay, that's the preamble. We went with Necromancer and it's time to start playing the game. You can't hire a mercenary right from the start. Larry can't even pay a woman to be near him, so we have to finagle a way to get through Bloodraven without actually attacking. Also, to guarantee I never deal 1 point of damage myself, I instantly bind throw to mouse 1 and therefore can never actually attack anything by mistake. So Larry stands here in the Home Depot parking lot thinking about life's many joys and wondering what the fuck all this ruckus is about as he traverses into the wilderness for the first time. Larry arrives at his house with the entourage of angry pedestrians following him, and he remembers he didn't have a door on this house, so back to town I go and I buy some staples, a lot of milk to run longer and some identify scrolls to start picking up good stuff. Now this guy's not built for much of anything, to be honest, so there's no way he's going to fight these rampaging beasts walking around. He's just got to jog over to his home in the stony fields, and when he arrives there he remembers there's a super chest spawn apparently like in his front lawn, and you can just like get a bunch of items. I've never seen this. I have a shopping list of objectives. For Act 1 I need to find a way to obtain my first mercenary without attacking, and then I need to get a little gear going for the bow lass I will be recruiting, and then it's a mad rush towards Endariel with maybe a little farming in the middle. That's what we've got to do. As I can't attack anything at all, there's nothing better to do, so I find the Stonyfield waypoint and reset the game over and over again while farming for Thorn's gear. These reflect X amount of damage back at my attackers, which is good. This is like putting on a rather large spike on one's forehead. It guards against the forces of hell. This grind also has the added benefit of getting me a lot more money, something that will become excessively necessary as we go on, because let's talk about where the difficulty lies for this game. The Mercenary AI is not good at all. In fact, they're really disheveled, usually getting lost and walking around in the heat of combat. Two problems with that. First is they don't deal a lick of damage, and secondly, they're going to walk right into the smith and get turned into a rather nice end table. And if you don't know, these mercenaries don't die for free. They have the life insurance policy, and being the guard for Larry is a fucking money back guarantee. They're going to be killed a lot more before the day is saved. So the more money I get now before it starts getting drained away, the better. At the same time, I'm also looking for Nova casts on damage received, but I'm not positive that I can equip anything of the sort until I'm more than level 1. Very dense fabric, hard to wear. In any event, I can't get a mercenary until level 8 or until I've killed Bloodraven, so the game plan is to open up this super chest spawn over and over and get enough gear to stand still and grind experience. While I contemplate this grind's benefits, I let people beat the shit out of themselves on me to give me a bit more experience. Once I've gotten a few levels, I've amassed some decent gear for being punched in the face and decided to try my luck at Bloodraven. I have several thorn species and a charge bolt cast on damage taken item, so I have all my bases covered. Now, she doesn't take Thorn's damage. Oops, I never considered the ramifications of bow usage, but since she has a projectile, my reflecting gear is worthless. Fortunately, the charge bolt proc does work, and I stand by her and she dies, a very common occurrence for me with women. It does take a legitimately long ass time, but finally we can begin the run. Back in town, I recruit Amp Lisa to my cause, and I give her my word that I'll never do anything to help her, and she will die. Here's 25 bucks, thanks for coming, and Larry and Amp Lisa begin their quest. If you are curious about my skill selection, for the moment I can mostly only take Amplify damage for Amp Lisa's benefit. Look at that clever shit. Fuck me. And unfortunately, there's no real benefit to putting multiple skill points into Amplify damage. Each point only influences the radius and duration of the cast, so it's not like it's going to get much better as time goes on. Therefore, I spend a heft of points on Bone Armor, a skill that grants me physical damage absorption, and now my gameplay is mostly me trying to get in the way while Amp Lisa shoots them. The land is crawling with a lot of dangers, like little orange beings and the like, so I have to constantly warp back to town and revive Amp Lisa, which is exhausting, both financially and mentally. If only my mercenary wasn't so weak, shake my head. And maybe I haven't conveyed this, but the mercenary really is not all that strong on their own, and in fact, they are considerably ungood at dealing with everything. Tainted dragging their taint on our faces, yet he's giving us the banana slammer. It's a lot of stress one way or another out here. Like, look at this death montage. As Larry has nothing better to do than check the inventory, take stock of everything, write down some stuff, stuff, collect the money, and drag a corpse back to town, I find that I'm enjoying the simulator aspect here. It's like I've made a brand new game for myself. I wanted to mention, by the way, that the Act 1 and Act 3 mercenaries have some of the worst fucking AI I have ever seen and routinely stop and do nothing, just have a swift mental crash, which is bad news bears for me as I just wait for her to continue doing all the work. Finally, let's jump into the battle with the Mistress of Cock and Ball Torture or whatever Andariel rules over, and this fight is going to be horrendous. As always, before an Andariel fight, I go and buy some Gatorade from town and dump it into Aunt Lisa's mouth so that she may resist poison better than the average bear, and we get to work. We get into the fight and Aunt Lisa bravely stands in the face of Andariel and I just run the fuck away. There's no way we can stand tall and just win this here encounter. Aunt Lisa needs some space, and fortunately I've got my newest trick in my back pocket, Bone Wall. As Larry is a carpenter, by the way, and a collector of bones, he's able to put up barricades to defend against damage and force enemies to walk around them. This both consumes Andariel's poison attacks and gives Aunt Lisa a nice wall to shoot over. She still dies, but you know, the idea is coming together. Back to town, more grape juice, back inside, over and over again, yep. My strategy becomes fairly simple. Larry just stands there and yells racial slurs, and she tries to kill me. This gives my mercenary ample time to use amplified damage strikes and be named Aunt Lisa to shoot her rear end and win the day. It happens to just be a very long day. Eventually, through enough money and willpower and large swaths of my face being slapped, I win the fight valiantly and we get next to nothing good and get to progress to Act 2, where there's a far better mercenary to hire. Now, if you're not familiar with Diablo 2 metas, then get the hell off my channel, but the Act 2 Desert Mercenary is widely considered to be the most versatile and strongest one in the game. He gets access to powerful paladin auras, such as Might and Holy Freeze. It's Holy Freeze, right? I'm not looking it up, so let's hope I'm not wrong for the billionth time in my life. He also equips pole arms and has a really potent attack speed with them, so in all ways he's just pretty good. Also, he eats Nutrigrain bars for breakfast and has a 6-foot schlong. Unfortunately, the gearing cost requirements for an Act 2 mercenary are high, and it's going to be the main difficulty of this challenge if I want to complete hell, but that's not the problem now. I'm in the mood to watch this man take a job at Terminix and start dealing with these roaches. So I throw Aunt Lisa into the garbage can and progress into the desert. I go and buy some rudimentary gear to begin, and I start on the checklist of objectives. This time we have the sewers for an optional quest, and we must go to get the Herodric Cube, followed by the Maggot Lair and the Claw Viper Temple, 2 toilets of the world, into the Arcane Sanctuary, one of the worst things ever made, and then finally the Tomb of Taurasha with a large beetle to beat. First thing is first, need to go relieve myself in the sewers by killing Radamant, an optional quest, but a free skill point is always worth it, so I head that way. Place is filled with narrow walkways with a ton of monsters, but they don't drink enough milk, so the bone warriors are bowled over with little difficulty. We get to Radamant, and I have to already begin employing what I dub the yo-yo method. Essentially, I can get my merc in and out of danger by using town portals, so I let him romp about like the little scamp he is, and then once the bigger kid's Radamant, for instance, has beaten the shit out of him, I flash my badge and get him out of trouble. This saves me the cost of resurrecting him, and it also saves me the time of running to this greasy fuck. After this, the Rubik's Cube is located in the Halls of the Dead, a relatively easy dungeon. Easy, at least for me. It's not loaded with snakes and fucking bugs like the next 2 different later dungeons in this act. Bumbling through the desert is not my idea of a good time because it's hard to score any kills for either experience or loot. Niraj is exhausted already, but he has no idea what awaits him. Firstly, unclogging the drain in the Maggot Lair, which is an annoyance even when playing the game normally, and it's just that much more fun when role-playing a guy waiting for a bus as the mercenary cleans up by himself. Of course, this being the Maggot Lair, I reveal the entire map on all the floors and hate life, and we finally get to the big bug room where the Staff of Kings resides. Unfortunately, Cold Worm the Burrower is hosting a block party tonight, and the room is swamped with shit, so I just stand here for like 5 minutes of my life that I'll never have back. I will die with the knowledge I could have slept or eaten pasta for 5 additional minutes, but instead watched Niraj's thick ass stab bugs. Anyway, I got the staff. Now, after a jaunt of desert running, it's back to another dungeon, the snake one, and yeah, this sucks ass. As these snakes have knockback and Niraj has a limited supply of health, the huge damage these things impart is annoying. Plus, since he can't attack when knocked back, I don't make progress. Normally, Larry would be part of the equation and do something, but that's not in the job description. I just stand here. Also, I'm casting a lot more walls lately, and everything has a curse as much as I can help. With the addition of Life Tap, a curse that causes physical damage to give life back to the attacker, Niraj can be functionally kind of, maybe not immortal in a lot of encounters. Hey, fucking Jonathan, stop spacing out. We're about to be in the Arcane Sanctuary, and I don't need viewers like you falling asleep at this pivotal moment. Fucking Jonathan. Anyway, it's the Arcane Sanctuary, and this place is awful. 4 directions, 1 in 4 chance to be the correct way, and it's full of ghosts on narrow walkways. So basically, I guaranteed I live up to my name and perfectly predict the way to go. I boast about my immense predictive skills. This was the time to put them to the test, and I got it wrong 4 times in a row and died on the correct path. What a fucking crock this place is. The Summoner is a monster. Well, actually, sorry, no, he's a man. man, but a metaphorical monster, and he torches health pools on normal difficulty. Niraj eats ass on his way up to stab this guy, and the trade-off is that the summoner is thicker than a cereal box, so a few jabs and he'll be gone. Still, with the slows and huge damage output, I have to do some quick construction and distract the boss a little to succeed. And finally, we're at the end of Act 2, and my god, it's not a good time awaiting us. Duriel is an iconic boss because he just absolutely beats the fucking shit out of you, and with my merc face tanking everything himself, it's not going to be pretty. In my corner is a man with a big stick, and the other corner is a big bug with a massive dick, and I'm pretty surprised to find that my assortment of curses make the fight pretty evenly matched. Decrepify is now online, and that gives the cursed target reduced attack speed and also increases their damage taken, but not as much as amplified damage. Essentially, it's 2 curses in one, and it really helps against heavy-hitting mobs. I also have the ability to throw life tap on Duriel, making my mercenary leech life back if they get low, so I ping-pong for a while with these 2 curses, and Niraj is doing really well until he's punched to death, but that's fine, anticipated. A little chat with Grease will patch that right up. I refuel my mercenary with lemonade, and don't tell him this, but it's actually my piss in a bottle, and we're back in the fight. It takes a few more cuts into my wallet to get through this, but life tap proves to be insanely overpowered and we get through Duriel in a comfortable manner. And now me shit is ready to take us to the land of bland jungles, and oh boy, Act 3 without attacking, my favorite. Dump that right into my ass, please. Our checklist now reads: gather various organs from several dungeons, perhaps including a cock and balls of one DJ Kaleem, starting with the Spider Cavern with one of those asshole unique enemies. Cesark the Burning, and I have to wait for Niraj to muster up the offense to succeed here. He's not that geared yet, by the by. He's kind of rocking whatever pawn shop finds I can grab, and it's becoming a bit annoying to keep him upright in these harder battles. But we grab the key item we need and run over to the Flayer jungle where there is a copious amount of flayers. And what do flayers like to do, you ask? Well, they like to layer pipe on my face and eat Niraj, and Larry isn't a fan. This part of the jungle is ripe with tedious battles due to the sheer overwhelming number of shit. And I'm killed, that's great. A slight nude run back, and we're back in action and get into the Flayer dungeon. There's more flayers in the Flayer dungeon, so that's bad, but we get to work and make our way through to collect yet another organ. And let me surprise you with a sudden jump cut to the sewers where the last piece of Kaleem's ass is, as Larry flees in terror from little skeleton men known as Stygian dolls. This is one of the worst enemies in the game, and even worse here because of their unique quirky nature. This nature I refer to is that they explode on death, causing big damage to anything nearby, except mercenaries. They don't take any damage from this explosion, which is normally a great thing, except Niraj has no qualms about stabbing these fucking things when I'm standing nearby him. I don't blame him, he's probably pissed he's died 500 times and I haven't, but still the game is now working actively against me, so I have to flee from more things. And this illustrates the largest problem with this challenge. It's currently the fact that I have no idea how I'm going to get good gear for the harder difficulties if I'm running from everything. Normally the player has abilities that make it easy to farm stuff, but relying on the mercenary to magic find for himself is crazy. It takes forever. I've got a few solutions to this problem, but all of them kind of require money, another thing I basically don't get enough of. The only salvation is the concept of rune words and super chests, but yeah, you know what, we'll worry about that later. For now, it's the council. Council of absolute fucks, who's with me? Here's yet another problem evidenced by this chaotic fight. The mercenary is simple. He sees a target, he'll poke it with his stick, but when there's 8 things that need to die, he doesn't do great priority, like this bog fiend or whatever this snake fuck is. It's spitting poison, it's annoying, causing headache, and the mercenary doesn't go up and deal with him. He just doesn't care, so I have to put up a fence and just corral this guy around so he hopefully attacks the right thing, and since the council members are thick and all over the place, we begin the marathon jog around trying to lure just a few back to a safe spot at a time. Also, there's healers around this place, and when the councilmen get healed from off screen, I feel great anger in my prostate, among other more brain-related places. After a long fight, we're through this part, and it's time for the Durance of Hate. Now, the Durance itself isn't actually the worst thing to get through for a large hunk of lunk like Larry, because there's enough room to mosey around and ignore the spooky, scary skeletons that creep around. Instead, the real issue is when you reach the final room where Mephisto resides. I want you to know I've made this joke like way too many times, but really, it's never been more true. I'm about to get Mephisted in the ass. Normally, this is a glass cannon boss. He's able to dish out some serious pizza, but he doesn't have deep dish health. He's thin crust, and that's what I'm getting at. You know, he ain't stuffed to the brim. That's the problem, though. Mephisto has a few methods of dealing damage, and all except one I can't tank. His charged bolts and ice ball, I can't deal with them. They hit for a massive amount. And for that matter, Niraj can't deal with it either, even with the mercenaries' naturally great resistances. It's just not happening. Therefore, I have to get in very close and soak up Mephisto's mighty slap ability, which is surprisingly powerful considering he doesn't have muscles, but nonetheless, it only takes approximately 40% of my ass away per swing. And bone armor gives me physical damage absorption, so I can just hold out and allow Niraj to sneakily walk up behind him and poke his ass asshole. The only issue is Mephisto also uses an AoE poison blast which hits both of us regardless of which way he's facing, causing him to die even when he's not being focused. And honestly, between the runs back to town and the times Mephisto hits me just a little too hard, this is probably the worst battle thus far. I have the finances to replenish my potions and mercenary supply, however, and we take that win and get rewarded with literally nothing. Some chain gloves. Boy, thanks Mephisto. They were actually good to head magic find. Oh goodness me, look at that, it's Act 4. Well, let's check the list, shall we? Gotta kill Isual. Is that all? No, unfortunately no. We also gotta go to the Hellforge and break the Soul Stone and then kill the Lord of Terror Diablo in his house. Larry, the Walgreens was that way. But Larry isn't one to deny the hero of Sanctuary Niraj from having a good time, so we're off to take care of our list of tasks. Now, Isual, he's a jumbo stuffed Oreo of a man, Mangel, because his health pool is big time. I'm not sure why, to be honest. It's not like he's supposed to be stronger than Diablo, but I swear, this takes so long to actually do. It does take a million years, but he doesn't hit so hard, so I just have to force feed Niraj strawberry juice like he's a baby, and we can collect free skill points, which is arousing. Look at that. And then, yeah, Hellforge time. If you're not aware, as you don't care or play Diablo 2, the Hellforge is an optional quest in Act 4 which gives the player a random assortment of perfect gems and a rune for free. The rune you are given is a more enticing thing in Nightmare and Hell difficulties as the possibilities increase as you increase in difficulty. In normal, no one really cares. You can get like a Hell rune. What the hell is that shit? But regardless, I take what I can get, so I jog over there and take a good look. Man, this is some detour. I should have just gone on the 401 instead. By the way, shit around here is thicker than your average mercenary and a lot of death ensues. Mostly of us, not the enemy. The enemies are doing fine. The fight with He Fists Us Hard is funny because it's a lot of perilous moments where Niraj barely survives and I have to watch on in intense contemplation as I throw out random curses. I'm like a Pokemon trainer, but I'm just a much scarier man. Meanwhile, I'm just counting cash and getting the juice boxes all packed up and shit. After Niraj wins the title fight, I head to the forge to get an Ort rune like a fucking seal. Ort. This writing's going down the tubes, I'm sorry. At Diablo's crib, we walk inside and I realize that I'm going to have to let Niraj become a mass murderer and kill every single monster in here because it's narrow and usually you can kind of just blast past crowds, but I have no retreat location, so I just have to let him take care of business as he does every day, you know, working overtime, you know. The seal bosses are challenging for a few reasons. First, for all those non-Diablo 2 players in the house, you have to activate 5 seals to release Diablo, allowing you to let Niraj kill him. 3 of these seals release mini-bosses, the Infector of Souls, Lord Desace, and the Grand Vizier of Chaos, basically an uber version of the Ghost, the Large Chad Man, and Skeletor. Usually, Grand Vizier is the easiest, except here, the wave of ghosts he's with makes your mercenary change targets a lot, and since he can fly over the lava, there's the threat that I'd have to restart the game all over because I couldn't reach him. Lord Desace hits harder than Diablo on Hell difficulty, so the idea is you never even begin approaching him as the battle will not be legendary. It'll be pretty fucking sad, actually. So for the mercenary to succeed, I have to spam a lot of bone wall and run far away. Finally, the Infector of Souls is really fast for some reason, and as this classification of mob has a flame breath attack, you can't just hang out. Kiting doesn't work well as Larry has tiny little man legs, and these guys have mega big man legs. It's a grind, but the whole challenge is. After you've activated every seal, Diablo spawns and the hero of Sanctuary Niraj starts moving forward ready to fulfill the legends, and he gets killed almost immediately. There's a problem, and it's that Diablo can't exactly miss an attack, and his wide range of attacks are far superior to Niraj's pole arm attack and melee range. Like the flame lightning thing Diablo does, it really fucking stings, and if it starts touching my mercenary, he's back into the coffin in town, and Diablo uses it all the time. There's also the 360 flame blast, the river of flame, the ice attack. Diablo, why the fuck do you have an ice attack? Basically, all of these, maybe it's a Dante reference. Could it be a Dante reference? They'll all kill me if they land. So I engage in some of the most awesome, riveting gameplay of being a 1930s stagehand and whipping back Niraj to town as soon as I see an attack. I do this like literally 1,000 times while I try to let Niraj pepper him up with like a 1 or 2 attacks as much as he can before I have to warp us back to town. Also, a pitfall of the mercenary overall is that they're braver than your average hero of Sanctuary because they will just run in and die before entertaining the thought of strategy. To them, there's no greater honor than charging me 35,000 gold to revive their dead body. Given enough time, money, visits to the drugstore for scrolls and potions, Diablo is defeated and he drops pretty much nothing good. A unique pair of chain boots, Treads of Chthon gives meh to everything. And now we're in the final act of normal, Act 5, Haragath, and here we have a scary list of requirements. First, save Anya in the Frozen River, and second, kill the legendary warriors of Barbarian Lifetime, the Ancients, and then kill Baal, the Lord of Ass Destruction. It's a short list, but a tall order, let me make that clear right now. So Act 5 is just a big hill, and you can honestly run in one direction for 90% of the time, skipping everything, and you'll make it to the Ancients just fine. The problem is doors. Yeah, honestly, fucking doors. They don't have a handle, as barbarians don't believe in not kicking the shit out of doors, so I would have to break it down to get through them. Problem is, the mercenary AI is strangely adverse to attacking the doors, so if I don't have an optimal route, I just have to wait while horrible stuff flies around and the mercenary tries to handle the situation in which the door has no handle. It's miserable. So the walk is a trek, and then the frozen river is a congested mess of monster motherfuckers, and the Guard of Anya, Frozenstein, is a slowing machine. The mercenary gets swarmed easily, and it's not feasible for him to face tank all the blows, so it's a lot of kiting and walling for me. After we save Anya, we're given a scroll that permanently upgrades our resistances, and we are ready for the Ancients. Is what I would normally say, but I decide it's not worth going to try the Ancients without getting some gear upgrades. I love farming Diablo 2. It's fun and quick per attempt. You have a lot of choices for either runes, item bases, uniques, all manner of thing, but when your only means of attack is hoping your friend comes by and stabs the correct things, it starts dragging a little. Dragging a lot, actually. This is shit. I kill Mephisto several times. I kill Mephisto several times. Some of them random minions, this and that, and I end up with this gear. It's okay. It's got a unique in there. We can be happy about that. Even if said unique spear is insanely bad, it's still good enough. And you want an explanation why I went for this bout of farming? Well, that's the fact that the Ancients are the worst challenge in this game by far, as unlike anything else we have to clear, you cannot cheese the Ancients. They have to be killed in one visit. And if the mercenary dies, that's obviously the end of the attempt, and therefore, if you drop a town portal, the battle fully resets. The fight itself is specifically against 3 barbarians, using very meta abilities of whirlwind, throwing, and leap attack. Okay, this is the Chad's Club. Where do I sign up? Each one hits hard, and the 3 can get stacked up, and that's just impossible to survive. Fortunately, on normal, these guys don't have enormous health pools, so the fight isn't actually noteworthy yet, but once we get to Nightmare in Hell, it's undoubtedly going to be the worst challenge in the game. Anyway, it's the World Stone Keep. This is always a pretty busy area full of enemies I don't even want to bother with. Stygian dolls, exploding fucks. Honestly, aren't these the worst enemy in the game by far? And just the whole place. I say overall we just burn it down. Good thing Tyrael agrees with me, so I reach the Throne of Destruction where Bale is vibing out, and it's time for the 5 waves of defenses, and this part is a bit of an issue. Again, nothing is too bad on normal, but as soon as the difficulty increases, we're going to have trouble getting through this section. Each wave consists of a leader and a bunch of trash mobs, and 2 of these 5 waves have the leader being able to resurrect the minions, and that's never such a big deal, except the mercenary isn't you and therefore has no brain whatsoever. So he just gets stuck killing a revived monster over and over again. And for the second group of enemies, there's a whole gang of resurrecting pharaoh sarcophagus men and a shit ton of skeletons, so even in normal it was fun watching Niraj keep churning through things he's already killed. Phase 3 and 4 see a bunch of damage, but Life Tap sustains Niraj in time for Phase 5, which is a complete fucking no way moment. Lister the Almighty Fister is back, and I am back into the other room, luring him away from Balls Bales because he's broken. He's got knockback, spectral hit, huge health pool, damage unlike anything else. Really is not worth bothering with this group. I gave it a try, and if I felt like finagling for a while longer, it could probably be done, but I was ready to get out of normal. Once Bale doesn't see the minions of destruction anymore on account of his bad eyesight, he laughs on account of his manic depression and retreats into his bedroom. I give chase and we corner him. This fight is abysmal in the sense that it takes forever to actually get through. Bale's all about those annoying crowd control moves. He has a big tidal wave of ice, a mana draining suck beam, and spawns a clone of himself that uses all the same abilities. If you don't do anything to Bale yourself, which hand up, yes that's me, then your mercenary has to make the right decisions, like not attacking the spawn tendrils or the clone of Bale, or just stare at the fucking wall. And sadly, this is exactly what Niraj does. He is clueless about what he should be doing. Unlike Larry, who's living his best life, counting the money from all the heroing he's been doing. The fight actually really takes like 30 minutes, and I have to resurrect Niraj a bunch, but enough chipping away at Bale's ass and we succeed in our quest. The Primeval's defeated by Larry and some other guy that no one will remember, and it's time to get into Nightmare. Now, you might have noticed this is part 1 of the challenge, and it was initially supposed to be one long video, but as I quickly realized, Diablo 2 is difficult to complete when you never attack once. Fancy that. So essentially, Nightmare difficulty reduces your innate resistances and spawns a higher quantity of unique monsters, with each of them having additional modifiers, meaning there's just bosses of insane difficulty walking around. Normally, you hit your power spike in Nightmare and really get to enjoy being stronger, but the mercenary isn't improving that much. We are going to get access to a much better version of him as soon as we complete Act 1, but until then, it's the same guy. He's just way worse now. But don't forget, Act 1 has no real goals. Instead, we just have to walk to Andariel and kill her. Here's how that went. Niraj is dying a lot more. Like, he can't handle one Yeti anymore, let alone the green Yeti with arms 2 feet thick. I'm not kidding, I barely start walking outside of waypoints with this guy and he's dead. The need right now is for gear, but there's a substantial part of my brain thinking that the idea sucks dick and I don't want to do it, so I instead try to force my way through everything as painfully as possible. And as a result, all my gold farming, all the item collecting, it's gone down the drain. It's completely squandered. I soon begin selling my own goods and Larry's body for money. It gets so bad that I soon realize I will not have the capital to even bring back my good friend and only ally Niraj. This does present a problem. I can't physically play the game without the mercenary, and getting money is really slow without him since the only means for me to get loot is to go out and find it in chests. So when I'm this broke, the game almost theoretically ends. I go try to kill Bloodraven for old time's sake, something I never do in any other playthrough to be honest, and this fight lives up to its annoying reputation as I chase her around for like an hour. She drops nothing, of course. All this to say, Niraj does muster up enough might to progress into the act, getting no new item upgrades, and we actually reach Andariel. She breaks my ass. In normal, she wasn't such a big deal, she wouldn't hit that hard, but in Nightmare, Andariel's poison shotgun ability hits like a regular shotgun, so I have to make good use of my physicality to defend Niraj from harm. It's time Larry accepts that he too is a hero and uses his skeletal frame for the forces of good, and I have run out of cash. The additional problem with using my own body as the target dummy is that Niraj also dies if I die, so it's a 2-for-1 discount, but in reverse, the 1-for-2 special, a fact that haunts me here. I legitimately go through the tedious process of selling outdated and useless things I've collected in my stash. From a nice bankroll to nothing feels awful, and I decide I need to leave a half-dead Andariel and go get some more items to sell. But little did I realize, item drops will despawn given enough time, and all the easy-to-kill monsters are now dead in this world, so I'd have to restart the entire boss fight with Andariel. Therefore, I have to go thin out dangerous crowds of bow women or big yetis, and I finally feel a little better with a little more padding in my wallet. I return head held high to Andariel's lair, and I find out that apparently bosses regenerate in Diablo 2, so she's at full health again. And she eats Niraj. So this is where our hero and Larry are left off in a financial rut with a lot of teeth marks on their bodies, the dreams of lazing around the house going up in flame as the house is on fire, but I am optimistic. Whip out the list of objectives, starting with job at McDonald's, followed by killing the Maiden of Anguish, followed by Nightmare Duriel, which will be the worst thing of all time, but if you want to see the progression, make sure to tune in, and until then, I'll be grinding this horrible challenge as tediously as possible. Thank you, good night.